It was a hot sunny December day in the beautiful and green tropical scenery of the West Jamaican countryside setting. The pleasantness of the sights and sounds of nature encompassing the surrounding hills and valleys, could even through the hardships of the times have made the most troubled and burdened of men forget about any heavy load that might have been permanently fastened to their backs. With Christmas just a few weeks away, along with the usual celebratory preparations being made, there was an additional atmosphere of both excitement and suspicion in the air, depending on which side of the two opposing camps each individual person in the region might belong. The two camps that had been created were, on one side the planters, who were generally made up of the white minority population of slave owners and their agents, and on the other side the ill-treated enslaved majority black population of the land. The year was 1831, and Jamaica, along with most of the other islands and territories in this part of the globe, was still heavily dependent on the slave trade. There was a much-dreaded rumor spreading amongst the enslaved masses like a fever that couldn't be stopped, striking fear into the hearts of the most determined of the slave masters. The rumor that had sparked such excitement amongst the slaves was that freedom was on its way, and it was to be delivered by Christmas Day. A confirmation of the blessings to be bestowed upon a now formerly cursed people who had finally begun to accept a different religion and its God as their own, at the expense of nearly all that had gone before. This alternative religion was the one given to them out of the hand of the slave master, with the white savior of that once backward people, standing majestically at its head on a crucifixion cross. A symbol of the ancient blood sacrifice tradition that would in time finally, if only by foul means, serve to resurrect the European white race to what they considered to be their rightful place within the human family. With the many similarities to be found between the principles of the religion of the Europeans and the ancient spiritual traditions that had stayed with the slaves, handed down from their African ancestors, many among the slaves had already begun seeing conversion to Christianity as a price worth paying, if at the end that would mean freedom. The planters themselves did not consider the newly found religious devotion of the slaves to be a source of encouragement. Quite to the contrary, it was for them a dangerous thing, giving slaves ideas that the planters would find hard to tolerate. They were convinced that it could bring nothing but bad results for them, believing that it would ultimately lead to multiple deaths amongst the whites at the hands of a bloodthirsty horde of savages who, without doubt in their opinion, were barbarians by nature. Slave owners all over the West Jamaican region had become hardened in their attitude towards their slaves as a nervous response to the growing freedom fever, but there seemed to be no stopping the coming storm lurking in the not-too-far distance. On this bright sunny day, as if energized by the plentiful rays of sunlight beaming down from the heavens, a young slave woman wandered along a dust road, her light carefree footsteps portraying a sense of freedom that she herself was not familiar with. Because the vast majority of her days were routinely taken up working hard on the cane fields under the threat of the overseer's whip, her mind void of the hopes, passions, and dreams a young woman of her age should naturally hold dear. As she walked along, she carried a few recovered stalks of sugarcane that had been discarded or overlooked during the loading of the crop earlier on in that day, onto wagons destined for the plantation's own sugar factory. Her hips swayed with every step as if she was moving in time to some sweet rhythm being played in heaven that only she was allowed to hear. Hardened to the harsh treatment regularly meted out on the cane fields under the burning sun and the whip, the young lady was amazingly still able to raise a bright smile onto her face as she began to sing. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain, set my people free. She sang, happily repeating those lines over and over again, her smile now beginning to betray a certain level of mischievousness, demonstrating that even if she had never known freedom before in her life, she had definitely experienced it in her deepest dreams. Go tell it on the mountain, she continued singing, as the only thought occupying her mind on this day was that freedom soon come.